In this session, I'm going to run through how you can back up files and applications to cloud providers within BackupAssist. So here we are in the new backup job wizard, and you can see we can choose the cloud backup as a job type. On the first page, we need to choose the files and folders and applications that we want to back up. In this example, there's just a simple C drive, but you might see other additional drives here and applications. Any can be selected for a backup. So I've selected a couple of folders and we'll move on. And we're going to back up to an Azure blob storage container. The two destinations that are currently supported are Amazon and Azure, but this list will be growing over time. So we choose the schedule type. Most people will stick with a basic schedule, which will effectively keep a 7-day retention. Monday through to Friday, if you include the Saturday and Sunday of the weekend. By default, it's just the 5 days. Or if you prefer, you can choose a longer retention with a grandfather, father-son model. We'll just choose the basic schedule for now. So now it's asking us to fill in details about the Azure container. So at this point, I'm going to now switch to the Azure portal so I can show you exactly how you set up containers to use with BackupAssist. So if you're new to Azure, the very first thing you'd have to do is set up an account, and Microsoft give you so much credit for free, so it's definitely worth doing just for testing purposes. And once you've set up the account and logged in, you'll be presented with the main dashboard where you can actually create many different services with Microsoft Azure. We're only concerned with creating a storage account. So we need to go into the wizard on the left and create a new service. We're going to choose storage account. Here it is. And effectively, it's a case of running through the wizard. So the thing to remember with storage accounts is that they are unique public addresses. So you have to give it a name that's going to be unique to yourself. So I tend to sort of recommend using initials that you know are going to be used just for yourself, for company initials, etc. And then some other text, and you'll know if it's valid or not because it'll give it a tick. If it comes up with a cross there, you've either used characters it doesn't support, or you've managed to pick an address that somebody else has already registered. Moving down, we're going to keep with the standard resource manager deployment model. We don't need to change that. Again, account type, general purpose is fine. Performance standard. Now you've got an option with the level of replication you want to choose. Personally, I'd probably stick with the default, this read access geo redundant storage. If you want to read through Microsoft documentation on the different prices and different redundant options, by all means, you can do that. But it's up to you which one you choose here, effectively. Again, there's an option here for whether you want the secure transfer to be required. I personally would recommend you turn this on. It just does mean that you're restricting any access to this storage location to only be allowed through secured connections, which BackupAssist supports. So enable that. Your subscription type is in effect how you're paying for the service. So if you're new to Microsoft Azure, most likely you'll be doing a pay-as-you-go service. As you move through their product set, you may well have a more of a subscription service, but that's an option there if you're using a subscription service. You have to create a resource group, or you can use an existing resource group if you've created one already. A resource group's really a group of products within Azure that are bound together. So we'll create one here purely for BackupAssist, because in essence, we may have other Azure services that have nothing to do with backup and they want to be kept separate. Choose your location where you specifically want this container to exist. You notice there's 2 UK stores, so I'm going to stick with the nearest to me, which is UK West. Virtual networks aren't supported on this model, and then we can choose Create. So there'll be a slight delay now whilst this storage account is deployed, and it usually takes 30 seconds or so to set up. But if you keep an eye on the notifications up here, it should eventually be executed and be available for us to use. Okay, so that account has now been deployed. We can go directly to the resource from this notification window. We can clear this notification, we don't need it any longer. So this is our new storage account. It's the overview page, so we can see some details about it. The important section in here is the access keys. Microsoft have already set up access to this storage account, and they usually set up two unique keys that give you access. You can add new keys in the future, but these are effectively keys that are valid right now to access the account. It's what we need to use. So if we look here, the storage account's name is NSW Backup 1, which is stored here. So I need to switch back now to BackupAssist and start filling in the form. So the account name is there. The container is going to be a folder within this account that you can name whatever you want. I mean, this is obviously more logical to what this backup's going to contain. So I'm just going to refer to that as Site 1. And here I need to enter my access key. So the easiest way of doing that is to go back into the Azure portal, and there's a button here to copy the key. So it's much easier just to copy it and paste it into the application. Switch back to BackupAssist, choose the dots. We paste that long key in there. Now that's the access required to the store, but we have the option to add an additional encryption password that will encrypt the data on this cloud backup that only we can decrypt it. So even if somebody else had access to the store, they wouldn't be able to decrypt the data without this password. So we enter that password twice. And then we can choose check destination to validate if that store is correct and we can use it. So the check destination is completed, and we can see we've got a nice green tick, so we know that those details are correct, and then we can continue. Fundamentally, we just need to give the job a name. And choose finish. And that job's been created and ready to run. So let's just run through the job that we've created. I've already run it once or twice before, so what we're effectively going to do now is rerun it as if it ran in the past and look at what files are created on the destination. Okay, so with every other BackupAssist job that supports VSS, the first thing it's going to do is perform a VSS snapshot to prepare the files on the source drive being backed up so they're in a consistent state. Once it's done that, and it'll start to run through the actual backup of any files that have changed since the previous backup. It's worth noting with the cloud-based backups in BackupAssist that it's not storing every file every time on the destination. It's looking for changes in the files, right down to the parts of files level, looking for chunks of data that have changed that it can push up to the destination. So this time there'll be a few changes, but not many, and it's pushing those changes up to the destination. Typically, we see that a 7-day retention within the cloud store only requires about twice the storage requirement of one full backup. It does depend entirely on what data you're backing up. If your data's changing an awful lot every day, then that might be high. But typically, about a 2-to-1 storage requirement is usable. Okay, so that job's finished. So if we then go back to the Azure storage container, and we can scroll down and actually have a look at what the containers contain. So we have one container called Site 1 under this storage account that we created. And if we drill down into that, you can see that there's a couple of configuration files in the root of the folder, but all of the actual data exists under this chunks folder here. And all of these files are relatively small in size. There'll be many of these created, and pages of them. These are unique chunks. They're unique blocks of data that the files are created from. So this is where the deduplication fits in. On their own, even if we were to download these through other mechanisms that Azure allow you to use, you wouldn't be able to do anything with them. You need to restore them through BackupAssist using that encryption password that we set up to be able to decrypt the data.